This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com, and joining us tonight is former WWE, Mid-Atlantic Wrestling, Central States Wrestling, UWF, WCW, and many other places wrestler. He's part of the famous Grizzly Smith wrestling family with his sister Rockin' Robin and brother Jake the Snake Roberts, none other than Sam Houston. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, man. I hope y'all are too. But yeah, I'm doing really great. I'm up here in the mountains in Sugar Grove, North Carolina, and having a blast. There's nothing like getting out here and having a couple of days to recharge yourself.
How long have you been in North Carolina for?
Well, last year when I had driven up to North Carolina because I was supposed to fly out of Charlotte and then talk to this preacher that with a TV station and fly to Cleveland and then come back to Charlotte, talk to the preacher, and go to Fort Wayne, Indiana. The night that I got to the Carolinas, the governor of Ohio started or canceled the first show. So that left me stranded in the Carolinas. So I just kind of stayed with it, just kind of followed his path for my life.
Now, I guess the last time that the fans probably saw you on a big level was that Dark Side of the Ring documentary that came out earlier this year. What was your impression of that? You were one of the wrestlers featured in it.
Yeah, I mean, it was centralized on my father. And yeah, my father had a lot of problems. I guess, there was like stuff with relationships, but what people have got to remember is all of us kids had different relationship with our father. So, I'm just, hey, it is what it is, accept it and move on. It's that simple. I don't want to sit here and cry and blame everybody else and always be the victim. I mean, our Lord and Master gave me the power to pray, and I can heal through prayer. I can save people through prayer. I've cast out demons through prayer, so I can overcome. I just give it all to Him, and every obstacle in our life, don't let the obstacles stop you. You got to overcome obstacles and move past it. If our deal is supposed to be, we're supposed to help everybody with things that we've gone through. Well, there's a lesson there to help the next person, maybe. I don't know what his great plan is. I know mine is to be there and help as much as I can and not to run away from things.
Now, we heard mostly the bad stuff about your father. Could you share us some positive memories? Because I recently interviewed your sister, and she said you were probably the closest with your father.
I was. Well, when my mom and dad divorced or split up, my mom had custody of me, but I ran away during a hurricane down in South Louisiana, and the water was all over the place. I was on my bicycle because I wanted to be at the wrestling matches that night, and I had to meet my dad to do that. So, but a storm was coming in too, so I took my chances on a bicycle. Anyway, my mom let my dad let me go on the road with my dad. So I basically, since the time I was 13 years old, I haven't had any sort of parental supervision whatsoever. I was on the road with the wrestlers. I was telling somebody the other day, they just don't know what it was like, and I remember at 15 years old driving down the highway, driving Junkyard Dog and a couple of the boys, and we were smoking cigarettes rolled in cocaine, to stay awake because that territory you're putting a lot of miles on. I mean, yeah, it was wrong. Now that I look back on it now, it was wrong, but I didn't know what was going on. So it was just one of the things, I grew up in
Could you tell us a little bit more about that smoking cigarettes rolled in coke?
Yeah. What do you want to know? I mean, it's a
Like what I've never heard of that before. Is that something that was popular among wrestlers?
It wasn't. That was the only time I ever did it, But we've been driving and driving and driving, and I was doing all the driving. I was 15, 16 years old, I used to work at gas stations and everything else before I started wrestling. When I was 15 years old, I ran the ring crews for Watts, and then also worked at a mobile station up in Shreveport, Louisiana, and an Exxon station in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Took care of all the boys' cars and stuff. Well, anyway, so I've had friendships, but we're driving down the road. We're putting on 2,500, 3,000 miles a week, and on days where I wasn't working at the gas station, I could make money picking up, driving dog and some of the boys or whatever, that brown Mercedes going down the road. Yeah. Well, start getting tired, you do whatever you can to stay up, whether it's those trucker pills they used to sell or what have you, drinking Mountain Dew, Jolt Cola, whatever you got to do, strong coffee. And one of the things was the dog would pull the filter out of a Benson and Hedges, lick it up real good, then roll it in cocaine, and then you smoke that. And it, bumps you up real fast because I know this from I've gone to 10, 11 different rehabs. The only one that helps is a long term to where you get knowledge to fight your addiction with. Well, I learned that if you drink something, it takes about 20 something minutes. You ingest, it takes like 22 minutes to get into your system. If you smoke it, it takes, if you snort it, it takes 7 minutes. And then if you smoke it, it takes 7 seconds to hit your system with that boom, that big pow all at once. So I guess, that's what we were doing. But I mean, driving down the road, I'd be driving, and Jack Howe, the referee, was mad about this, and come through a big construction site. And if he was sitting in the back seat, he'd clamp his hand over my mouth. This was ribs back then. He'd clamp his hand over my mouth and hold a bottle of Rush under my nose. And then that stuff would blow your top off, and you're sitting there and trying to make it through all. And that was jokes back then.
How did you adapt to regular high school when you're used to hanging around those guys?
You don't. I mean, I was having a party every weekend, and my way, my deal was alcohol. And you get a fifth there for every Friday night, you get a fifth for every Saturday night, and you get a fifth for Sunday night too. I was working every day. I had hookups with girls that worked at convenience stores, and then hey, it's Louisiana, so any liquor laws were really lax. I mean, leads the nation in DWIs, but there's a drive-through daiquiri shack on every corner. It's great. I got over 12 years sober though, by the way.
Yeah, and you just celebrated your birthday recently as well.
Yeah. By Yaw's law, I'm 58, but I guess through dog years and some figuring I do on the side, I'm claiming 33.
You still actually keep yourself in very good shape. I saw you wrestle at the Cauliflower Alley Club a few years ago. You look like you could still step into the ring in AEW.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know who to reach out to or anything like that. I'm just recently married. AEW sounds good and stuff like that. But right now, at this point in my life, I've got so much other important things that need to be done. It's not about me. It's about family, and it's about the people that I can help. I would love to do it. I've talked to Dustin. I talked to Cody. I talked to Jake about it, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'd like to do something. If anybody's listening, just give me a shout. Let me know what's happening."
They've been taking good care of Jake. I hear. Didn't they just re-sign him to another 3-year deal?
I don't know. I've called him several times. I leave messages. He's not real good about returning calls. So, I just it's kind of like him and my sister both. I love them and I wish them well. I just don't know what's up. So
And as far as the girls when you were younger, hanging out with the wrestlers back in those days, did you get any of the groupies being like the son of a wrestler
Oh
before you actually?
yeah, yeah.
You were a pretty boy. You had like the real rock star look in some of those old pictures I saw of you as a
Oh,
kid.
well, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, no, but yeah, I mean, I was in the towns every week. Back then but Louisiana, that territory was so big that they were running two shows a night every night, and then some nights they'd run three shows, and then they were doing double shots on Saturdays and Sundays back then. So, but you were in towns regularly, so you had your friends, especially growing up there. You had your friends and acquaintances.
Now you started in Florida Championship Wrestling. How was that experience working, I guess, for Eddie Graham in those days?
Oh, it was great. Well, I think we briefly spoke about it on the last interview, but the CACs, what an organization it is. First of all, let me just throw that out there. This year at the CACs, yeah, the attendance wasn't that great, and this, that, and the other, but there were some troopers there. And I got to go speak with two people that had a major influence on my life, and that was Precious Paul Ellering and JJ Dillon. And JJ enlightened me a little bit on something when I ran away from home, because what's the thing that every wrestler back then, always, you when you go to a show, make sure you bring your bag. Well, my dad had already called, all the promoters everywhere when I ran away from home, and I showed up down in Florida, and I started showing up at the shows every night, and they would never give me a shot, and then uh, finally JJ, they were short somebody, and JJ said, "Hey, come on, use the kid." He said, he's here every night. He shows he's dedicated. He said, "You give the shit kid a shot." And Dusty talked to him, and that's how I was born. I didn't know that, and it really touched my heart. And then I was able to talk to Precious Paul Ellering, because Ellering gave me a compliment when I was coming back from the ring in Philadelphia. And he said, "Sam, I love watching your matches." He said, "You always go that one step further." See, when I was younger, it was instilled in me that you couldn't be second best. You always had to be Johnny on the spot, boom, 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 and that's what I try to do. And then Hector Guerrero gave me that advice down in Florida, and I thought about it. And what it meant was not to be like second in a race or anything like that, but never give anything less than your personal best, your best effort. So Paul Ellering had told me, he said, because you always go that one step further. And I thought about it for a lot of years, and I just kind of like blew it off. And then when I was in prison in 2011, I was sitting there in my bunk. I just got moved to from a maximum security disciplinary camp to a Class A trustee camp. And when I got there, those that came back to me, don't be second best. Well, they put me out on the road crew. There were 9 other inmates out there, and before it was all over, I had my hustle on. I was getting coffee every morning for all the guys. I had picked up. We were on the road crew. Our job was to fill potholes, pave the parish roads, put in culverts, cut out swing blade ditches and stuff like that, cut trees out of the way. And I really gave it everything. And then by the time it was over on that job, I was raising so much money picking up scrap metal for the folks that ran the parish government maintenance facility. They would take it in and they would buy me coffee. And then once a week, we'd get Burger King or Kentucky Fried Chicken or something like that. It was kind of cool.
Was Kevin Sullivan working the Florida territory when you were there?
Kevin was there for, I think, briefly. I mean, I don't remember him over any length of time or anything. I think he'd already or was on his way out when I was going in, maybe.
Any memories of him throughout the years? I know you've probably run into him multiple times.
Oh well, yeah. I've run into him a few times. I mean, he's all right. I guess. I mean, I give him his respect. I guess he gives me mine and stuff. Uh, but yeah, and he's still going today. So, I'm proud of the guy for giving it all he's got all this time. He's hooked up with Andrew Anderson, I guess, right now.
Yeah, he's still going strong. He's actually appearing on an event in LA this Friday night. And as far as Mid Atlantic, I guess Dusty brought you in there, being billed as his protege.
Well, what happened was, all right, I did the first 3 months in Florida, and then it was the night before Dusty was having the Orlando Jamboree, and it was a concert he threw at the Eddie Graham Sports Arena, and it was starring Boxcar Willie. The only thing is they didn't really give it a whole lot of advertising. So there were only about 50 people there. Well, I'd helped out. I'd picked up the band that day and this, that, and the other. So we were partying, and I was started imitating Dusty to Mike Davis. And Mike's eyes got real big. And I said, he's right behind me. Because I was doing my Dusty. He's right behind me, ain't he, baby? He's like, yeah. So Dusty goes, you finish up tomorrow night. And I was, oh gosh, that killed me. And then I'm back in the dressing room, I'm crushed. And he goes, no, baby. He come back a few minutes later. He says, no, baby, you're starting the Carolinas on the 2nd. So I came in before Dusty and them got the contract or anything. Matter of fact, because I knew the office, I think Dusty was sending me up here so I could, tell him what was really going on. And so when Dusty would fly in, he would pay me if I wasn't working to drive him around to the shots. So we had a good time then, and I would tell him what's happening, what's really happening in the towns, and so he was able to get a good handle on it. And then I got opened up in Fayetteville, North Carolina, 27 Stitches, and the crowd went silent, and they sewed me up. I went to work the next night for TV. Buddy Landell went to open me back up. The people at Spartanburg went crazy. Magnum was there. So then after that, they made me a protege of Dusty and Magnum's. And then things really took off for me.
Yeah, you feuded with Crusher Khrushchev, who I think was Demolition Smash in later years. How was that feud? A lot bigger than you.
Oh yeah, it was, but if you look back, look at it, the matches were great. He came to me at the CAC's, the Cauliflower Alley Club, a couple of years ago. It might have been the year I did the interview with you, even. I don't know if he was there that year or not. I'm not sure, but he came up to me because I wrestled him in WCW all over the place. Or not WCW, Mid Atlantic or Crockett. Yeah, I guess it would be WCW later on. But I wrestled him there, and then I wrestled him and Bill a couple of times as Demolition, I think, somewhere along the road for Vince. But he came to me at the CACs. He said, Sam, he said, all of the greatest matches in my career were with you. And I was like, wow, man, that was a hell of a compliment. I love the guy to death. He tore his knee out when they won the Mid-Atlantic title that day. He was out for 9 months, and I knew he just had a baby. All the boys chipped in. We were going to make sure we took care of him. We took care of one of our own. So nothing but respect and love for Barry Darsow.
Any thoughts on the angle when the Horseman broke your arm? That was one of the hotter angles you were involved with.
Yeah. Oh, they would. They'd beat on that arm and bust that cast up every night. And then I had to go and get it recast. And finally, I learned how to do it myself, harden it back up myself and stuff. Oh, but it was a pain. Oh, and it stung. Oh, but, oh, you only live once. This will, let's go for it.
Did you ever party much with Ric Flair back in those days? I guess you were a baby face, so maybe you
Yeah,
weren't allowed to.
what was cool was I got invited to Flair's Christmas party, and Crockett had said so. Just got like really kind of just real like a well, you just wanted to smack him a little bit. He like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, man, the world champion invited me over. What an honor. And he said something else about parking cars. Oh, okay. So it didn't take me long, and I stole Jimmy Crockett's office car and drove it back to the office and dropped it off there for Flair's Christmas party. So I kind of pulled one over on them too. Then
Somebody's asking if you ever saw Ric Flair do his helicopter trick. Have you ever heard of this?
I've heard of it. I've never seen it. Um, stuff happens. I can't. I grew up in a way, wilder lifestyle. What might seem odd to some people doesn't seem odd to me. I've grown up around. I've seen wrestlers in just every kind of situation you can imagine. So,
Your sister was telling me that Andre would have been one of the wrestlers that was pretty close to her. How did you get along with Andre?
oh, I got along with Andre great. I've known Andre since I was about 10 years old, 11 years old, something like that. My first trip with Andre was awesome. We got sorry. You got? Do I got a minute to tell this story?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. Okay. So, Andre the Giant, the world's biggest wrestlers, coming to the territory to be what my dad's tag team partner around in some of the towns at the territory. And they're wrestling against five guys. Grizzly Smith and Andre the Giant. So it was a Friday, and Lafayette, Louisiana ran on Friday, but they had to be at TV, Shreveport TV Saturday morning. It's like 8 o'clock or whatever. So Andre was coming over. Mom was going to cook her chicken fried steak, which was mine and my sister's favorite meal, with mashed potatoes or rice and gravy and green beans and the whole 9 yards. Oh, we can't wait. So we get off the bus. We're running home after school. And we get home and we can't wait to eat and everything. And when we're running through the back door, Mom looks at us and she said, "There's nothing left." And we were like, huh? Because we knew what Mom was going to cook. And come to find out later, Andre had eaten 22 chicken fried steaks, all the rest of the sides, everything. So Mom took Robin and I into the den, and she made Andre pull his wallet out and give her money to go to Burger King and get me and my sister something to eat. So Mom goes and does that. I get to go with Dad and Andre on the road trip. Oh, I'm so excited. So so we go to the matches in Lafayette. And after the matches, Dad liked to drink wine. He didn't drink beer. So when he pulls up to the convenience store, he looks at Andre and he asks him, he said, "But you want any beer, boss?" And Andre goes, "Yes, I'd like two, please." So Dad goes inside and he gets himself a magnum of wine, not just the little small, but a magnum of wine, the bigger one. And he goes over there, two beers, a guy that big. Oh, I'll get him a whole six pack. So Dad comes back to the car, sits down. He goes, "Here you go, boss," and sets a six pack down there. And Andre looked at him. He goes, "I meant two cases." So Andre gets out. He goes in the store, comes back out with two cases. Now, I'm in the back seat. Dad had got me a bottle of Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill. He would buy me bottles. Well, I guess you heard on the dark side of the ring, but he would buy me wine. And That way I wouldn't interrupt with the boys, or if they were talking business. That was the rule in the car. I couldn't interrupt. So anyway, so I'm drinking my Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill or something, and Dad's drinking his wine. And Andre, they're talking and laughing and having a good time. When we get to Alexandria, Louisiana, Dad's going to get gas, so I'm the only one that goes to the restroom. Well, Dad came back. I mean, we everybody comes back out. I fill the car up with gas and everything. We all get back in the car, but Andre and Dad were out of beer and wine, so they got more. Andre got another case and a half, and Dad got another magnum of wine. So they get to Natchitoches, Louisiana, between Alexandria and Shreveport. It was all Highway 1 or 71-1. And it's a 2-lane highway, and they're laughing and, just partying and carrying on. And all of a sudden, I see the bubblegum lights behind us, and I'm like, ooh. So I wait for a second, and Dad doesn't respond to it or anything. So I said, Dad. And he said, son, how many times have I told you not to interrupt when we're talking business? I said, yeah, but Dad, he said, son, I don't want to tell you again. I said, yes, sir. So I'm sitting there, and I'm watching that policeman, and he's behind us, and boy, we're trucking on down the road. Dad and Andre are carrying on. They don't know what's going on. So a couple say, maybe a minute or so later, I said, Dad. And Dad said, son, do I got to pull this car over? I should have said, well, yeah. But I was like, I didn't want to be the reason, for this. So I was like, okay. So I shut up. So then my dad's driving, and he says, Andre, he goes, boss, he goes, I didn't take a leak at that convenience store. And Andre goes, neither did I. And Dad said, I sure wouldn't mind stopping and checking the other side of a sign, a road sign. And Andre just said, I could take a piss. So they pull over. Well, I was sitting in the back seat. And here's what I see. I'm looking out the back window, and that little trooper has already jumped out of. I don't know if he was a trooper, if he was a parish police, or what he was. But that little dude was outside his car in front of him, and you had a ticket book in the pen and stuff. It wasn't like how it is today. He's just writing down a license plate number and make, model, and year of the car and blah, blah. And he looks, and I see him look, and on the car doors open, and these two, and it just gets getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And these two giants are there, and this he's probably like a regular sized person, like 5'10" or something. Is that regular size? Yeah, she said 5'10" is regular size. So he's probably around that size or so. And he looks up, and you see these two monsters, a big 380-pound, 6'10", monster here, and another one that's standing up. And when he gets to 7 foot, he just keeps on going, and both of them bigger than life and right up in your face. And they turn around and they go, hello. And that guy threw his ticket book and his pen up in the air, went and ran and jumped in his car and turned around and got the hell out of there.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. But on the road, I was in Madison Square Garden, my first time, And when I got there, I always got to the matches early. So I get to the matches, Madison Square Garden, and I never liked to know who I was working with before I got there, before the event that night. So I get to the garden, and I ride the elevator up and everything, go into the basement, got to ride the elevator, blah, blah, blah. So I get to the dressing room level, and I'm going around, and I see a roster hanging on the wall. So I go over there to see what match I'm in. And as I'm looking, I find it. Oh, I'm in the Battle Royal. Cool. Madison Square Garden in a Battle Royal. This is great. This is, it's electrifying to be the performer in the middle, I don't know how many of folks get that feeling. But like I've stood in the Superdome with a guy in a headlock in the middle of the Superdome with people everywhere, place full of people. So I've got to
Yeah,
be,
it's like a drug.
oh, So anyway, but I'm going to be in Madison Square Garden in the main event. Well, let's see who's in a battle royal. Let's see who else is going to be in it. Oh my God, my brother! This is the first time ever that me and my brother will actually be in the same ring at the same time. This was epic for me. Well, it was also hockey season. And Andre's always going to be in the battle royal, but it was hockey season. So during hockey season, what they do is they come in and they put ice about that thick on the floor, and then they got to keep it super cold in that arena to keep that ice frozen, because what they do is they put particle board on top of the ice, and then they put the chairs and the ringside and stuff like that on top of the particle board. So they got to keep it super cold. Well, we're out there, the performers, we're out there in Speedos or whatever. Some guys had more, but mine were just trunks. So you're out there basically, Arctic swimmer. Or so when the battle royal started, somebody reached out and grabbed me in a headlock in the middle of the ring. And somebody come along and open hand slapped me in the back. Oh, God, it hurt. And I looked between my legs from the headlock, and I saw snakeskin boots walking by. And I was like, the only guy in the business with snakeskin wrestling boots is my brother. So I waited a few minutes. I don't know who he got tied up with over in the corner, but I swear I hit him so hard in the back, it left a handprint on his chest. Anyway, he's selling it and stuff. And he comes over to me and he goes, hey, bro, he goes, there's not a whole lot of the guys here know us. He said, we could swerve everybody. He said, we could swerve everybody, win this thing, split the bread, because they got to pay us, split the bread. And so this is my brother telling me this. And I'm thinking, swerve everybody? Well, okay. Well, let's do it. And I said, what do we got to do first? He said, we got to get rid of the giant. And I looked over, and Andre's over there swinging away, laughing, having a blast, beating up on like 4 guys. Just going wailing away, having a blast. Because there's some guys in the business you have fun beating up on. Bubba Monroe, Sputnik Monroe's son, was one of my favorites. So was Black Bart. Anyway, Andre's over there, but just wailing away. And I looked at Jake and I said, well, okay. And he looks at me, he says, are you ready? And I said, yeah. And he said, let's go. And Jake took one step and stopped. And I didn't know he stopped. Oh, and I went over there and I grabbed Andre's leg and I'm trying to pick up and hoist away and everything else. And he's got to be looking at me like I'm some kind of fool or whatever, but I'm really giving it all a good team effort. And I look back over my shoulder like that, and the other half of my team is sitting in the middle of the ring, sitting there going like this, laughing at me. About that time, this hand, about the size of a baseball glove, comes and it hits me right there on that side of the face and knocks me over the top rope, and I land on my hands and knees on second row. There's people in second row at their feet, and I'm spitting teeth out, a couple of molars, spitting them out in chunks. So I get up and I go back to the dressing room, and I'm icing my jaw down and back at the dressing room. And Terry Garvin comes up and he looks at me. He says, Dancing Sam. He said, the giant wants to see you. I was like, oh gosh, okay. Well, Terry come back about 3 or 4 minutes later, and I hadn't gone yet. And he goes, Dancing Sam. He goes, I said the giant wants to see you. He said, you better go to that man's dressing room. Don't make him come hunt you down. I was like, all right. So I get up and I go over and I get to Andre's dressing room. And then I get to his dressing room and I knock on the door. And he goes, yes. And I open the door and he looks, he goes, come in. So I come in and Andre goes, sit. And I sit down, boy, and I'm like trying to be every little bit of small I can be. I don't want to be intimidating. I don't want to look like I'm bowing up, puffing up, or nothing. I'm there to listen. And he goes, let me tell you something. He goes, I've known you since you were a little boy. He goes, I like you. I don't like your brother, though. He's an asshole. From now on, you travel with me. And oh my God, man, the next 6, 7, 8 months, I think, whoa. Yeah, I was, that night I was able to go, I'm going with a giant, But after, whoa, a steady, oh gosh, 6, 7, 8, about 8 months every night on the road with him, drinking and stuff like that. It was, I was hanging though. I was giving it a grade A team effort. Don't be second best.
So it got back to him that your brother put you up to that, I assume.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, he knew. Yeah, so. Well, yeah. Hey, you live and you learn. But I've always had fun. I ain't not had anything but ever love and respect for Andre and stuff. He was a great guy. I think I kind of understood him a little bit better than most, or not most, but I mean, what I mean by that is because the size thing. You know, he always looked at everything. I'm sure, like my dad. I only saw my dad being a real asshole one time, and that's because he just woke up. I had just driven from Tulsa to New Orleans, straight through the night, the whole 9 yards. We get to New Orleans. We're getting ready to get to the show. We pull up at a gas station. Dad's just waking up, and the guy that walks by, he says, how's the weather up there, Shorty? And my dad spit on him and said it was raining. So, uh, I was really taken back by that, I guess. But, I don't know. I guess the mood wasn't right.
There's a fan on here that says he remembers seeing you in Cincinnati and some incident happened.
Oh, yeah. I was wrestling Jimmy Garvin. And I was real young. Anyway, I was firing up on Jimmy Garvin in the corner. And all of a sudden, I thought the referee was tapping me in the back. And it wasn't. It was some fan had rolled in the ring. He'd like stripped down. He not naked, but he had on like I think speedo and a t-shirt and green wristbands and on his feet, on his ankles, and his head. And he's standing there and he goes, come on, come on. And I'm like, ah. And like, I went to go after him, and little Kenny, the referee, was trying to grab him too. And Bobby Eaton snagged him by the legs and dragged him out of there. And we're like, whoa, where'd that come from? Look at a little dude. He had a green tank top. No, not a tank top, a full t-shirt on too. Oh, I was like, so afterwards I go and, I got to go to the police room where they got him. Cause I know the routine. I, grew up watching, back in Mid-South, depending on where you were at, if you did something to one of the boys, the sheriff's department ran Louisiana, all the security in Louisiana. So the sheriff's department would come back and lock you up with one of the guys. And that wasn't pretty.
Yeah, I heard the story that Bill Watts would sometimes go in there after the wrestlers were done with them and finish them off.
I wouldn't, Bill was very protective about this business. I mean, and I can't, I don't know. I can't prosecute or go after anybody that's trying to do something that protects their livelihood. Watts was really strict and everything, but look at the talent he had, and he had to be strict with the boys. I mean, I understand. I was seeing the guys get fined every night for this, that, and the other. I was on the road. I would. I remember one day we were driving down the road. Lynn did, and the whole Barry Darsow and Hercules Hernandez are broke on the down on the side of the road. Uh, and Dad stops and leaves me there with a small toolbox. Says, "Meet us in Alexandria." They jump in the car and all that. I'm sitting there. Okay, here we go. Pull the water pump off. See what I got. Whatever you have to do to get wherever you have to do. I don't know. So.
You've been around Ted DiBiase a lot over the years, and he's recently had this whole issue with his ministry, which I'm sure you've heard about.
I've heard a little bit about it. I don't know all the particulars. My opinion of Teddy, he'll always be a close and dear friend of mine. He had a lot of influence in my life growing up. As far as I don't know, all I can say is what the talk to you about is the guy I know.
How was your experience with Terry Taylor in UWF, who was your tag team partner there?
Yeah, he was good. I enjoyed Terry. I had no problems with Terry. I got a lot of respect for Terry too. I wish I was there the night. Matter of fact, Terry was the one who rode with me that night. I think it was Battle Creek, Michigan. When we walked in, Vince comes up and he's like, "Terry, I'd like to put." He pulled Terry in his office, and I was standing on the other side of the office. And Vince told him he needed to do a mohawk, a red streak in his hair. And then I heard the whole thing. Vince looked at him there, or Terry goes, "I'm not going to do it, or I don't want to do it." And Vince looked at him. He goes, the WWF, we've fulfilled our end of your contract. It was a standard 2-year contract where they book you 10 days and they got you for 2 years. So he said, "We've fulfilled our end. We want you to do this." He said, "I've got a place on my roster for for the Red Rooster. I don't have a place. I don't have any room for Terry Taylor on my roster." Terry come out of that meeting. He said, "Sam, let's go to the drugstore." So he got the spray-in mousse, and that's what he used instead of dyeing a red streak in his hair. But I think that came from that Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks, that Dragnet movie.
Yeah. Well, that's what he's best remembered for anyways, that whole Red Rooster character.
I actually had, I don't know if the fans will watch it or not, but if you go on YouTube, you'll see me and Ted DiBiase tag up against Terry Taylor and Chris Adams. What a great match that was. See, Watts used to do something different than what the other guys. He'd give you a good match on TV, but he'd give you a good babyface match on TV. And, and damn it, they're exciting if they're done right. And then, but anyway, yeah, that's a damn good match if y'all want to see some.
And of course, Central States, you were world champion there. You were their version of the champion. How did you like that?
Yeah, I was the Central States champion. It was okay. It was. I'm not going to say it was great because it wasn't. I mean, the experience was good, and I guess it's training and paying your dues, baby. Well, I've been paying my dues all my damn life, baby. No. Anyway, but I'm being blessed more than any man deserves to be now. I just recently got married, and props to my wife. I love her to death. Now she's laughing. Anyway, no. Being that when I won the Central States title, it took me away from the Carolinas out to the Kansas City. Now Crockett had invested or bought out the Kansas City territory. Okay, he sent a ring down for us to work in, and they wouldn't use the ring. It was a 16-footer, blah blah blah. And you can argue, well, if you knew how to work, you could work in anything. Well, equipment needs to be right so guys don't hurt themselves when they're doing their job. That was one of my deals. One of my other things is we drive 400 miles to an event, and the posters would be sitting on the concession stand on the side. They were going to sell the autographed posters. How can people come to an event if nobody knows you're having an event? it, you know, we had good TV ratings. We had a good show. We did really well. We proved that when after I left Central States, Bill Dundee beat me for the title on TV, and I started up with Watts. And the first time we came back, we changed buildings. I told Crockett, but nobody wants to walk to that municipal arena or whatever it was in Kansas City. Nobody wants to walk through the bad part of town with their kids and stuff like that. There's only parking for about 10 cars. Um, so the houses were little, but I knew our stuff was good. And when I first went back, when we went there with Watts, me and Eddie Gilbert went in there, and we drew 155 grand, I think. But we were in the keel, so it was cool, you know.
Yeah, that was one of the least favorite territories of most people to work because I understand the rats weren't that great in that territory, and also the money wasn't that great.
I wouldn't know about the rats in that territory. Thank God. I had recently gotten married, so I was, I
Yeah,
was
as I hear your wife laughing about that.
yeah, she is. Yeah, yeah.
Well, she can't hold you against anything for those days because
No,
that was a long time ago.
yeah, no, no. Look, I've told her everything, y'all. So there ain't no.
Okay, so she must really love you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, that's why I said I've been blessed more than any man deserves to be. I got a woman that knows who I am and what I've done and still loves me through it all.
There you go. Well, I do have to say you're one of the nicest wrestlers I've met, and I've met a lot of them.
Oh, well, thank you very much, man. That means a lot. I just try to help where I can. We had a interview a few years ago, and you asked me who I work for, and I told you, well, I really don't have a real boss. I listen to my Lord and Savior, and I'm listen to what the Master tells me to do, and to be at the right place and the right time. And I always try to be able to help other people if it's through talking with them, if it's praying with them, however it is. We all need encouragement. I've been down to the lowest pits of life. I hung a noose around my neck on January the 10th of uh, of 2010. I put two nooses around my neck, and I prayed and I said, "Only you can stop this, God." And I jumped, and those nooses, they should have killed me. They should have broke my neck. Both nooses broke, and I hit the ground with such force from only 5.5 feet up in the air. My feet hit the ground with such force. The balls of my feet, the soles of my feet were bruised for weeks. You know, both nooses broke. I tie knots offshore. They shouldn't have broke. They shouldn't have failed. They broke. They didn't tear. They didn't rip. They broke. I carry part of it still in my Bible now to remind me of the deepest I've ever been in my life. When you're sitting there and all you got in the world is a foot locker with two pair of boxer shorts in it and maybe a little commissary or something like that and a state bar of soap. That's all you got. Maybe a towel or something. I've been in some prisons where it took 2 weeks to get a mat to lay down on. I slept on a concrete floor. That's an A-me. I've been through it all, but it's like I say, every obstacle that you got to go through, everything that gets put in your way, you got to overcome it. You got to get through it. You can't kick it off to the side. You've got to overwhelm it. You've got to empower. You got to engulf it. If you want to truly conquer something, you've got to overpower or overcome.
Did you ever have any issues when you were incarcerated with other
Yeah.
prisoners messing with you?
Well, they weren't messing with me, but May the 19th of 2019, I'd gotten moved from AME. I'd gotten moved to from the parish side over to the DOC side. So got 16 inmates in that dorm, and one fella, his name was Chad Milton, and he was on the television show Louisiana Flip and Move. He was the contractor. Well, he was in there because he had been out hunting. His wife was a school teacher. She was mad the next morning when he was coming home. He followed her to the school. He had liquor on his breath and a gun in his car. So they hit him with domestic terrorism. So he was doing in there for that. Well, his cellie had been stealing his stuff. You know, uh, Chad had two other fellows that were his buds that he hung out with. I stayed to myself. I did a Bible study in the afternoon. And I was writing my book. We're working on finishing my book now. But I'd started writing my book while I was incarcerated. And I would do a Bible study and a prayer at night at 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock that night, Chad called out his cellie, and his cellmate was in there doing time for armed robbery. And his two buddies was a murderer and another fellow with armed robbery. And then this other fellow that ended up being the lookout. Anyway, whenever I finished my 10 o'clock Bible study, all hell broke loose. I was packing my stuff up, and everybody ran into that cell. All those guys ran into that cell, and they were working Chad over. Well, when I seen Chad's two buddies run off, I went in there and I had to get involved. Very brutal, physical, life-saving way. By the time I got there, they'd already stabbed him, fractured his skull, broke his eye sockets, his nose, his cheekbones, and his jaw. Anyway, so I got Chad over. They all took just throwing people, turned into a wild mess. I took Chad to my cell. They came back after him 4 times. They couldn't get through me. And finally,
where are the prison guards during all this?
They didn't come through for an hour and 45 minutes. I couldn't get through anybody. This is a meat jail, y'all, in South Louisiana. The sheriff there is the governor's brother. So we were having inmates get killed about once a month from each other. They weren't worried about anything. They had no security, no cameras up. Right? There's so many blind spots. It's horrible. But that was a turning point in my life too. There that night when I jumped in on that, because I lived in that dorm, had to live in that dorm for 12 more days. And then finally Chad came out of the coma. When he came out of the coma that he was in, he asked how I was doing. And the sergeant goes, "What the hell are you worried about him for? You need to be worried about you." He said, "Because he saved my life. He got involved and he got me out of there." And that's when they come and they, Oscar Garcia come and got me out of there. They were bringing me. Oh God, I had to go like 6 or 7 weeks to write notes to the nurse. Hey, I need to borrow the fingernail, toenail clippers or whatever. Yeah, you had to requisition to go up to because you can't have anything like that in there. You might jug somebody up. So I thought they were coming to do that. And Garcia come back and we had a talk, and he said, "You saved that man's life." He said, "Why'd you get involved?" And I said, "I had to." And he said, He said, "I'm gonna move you up here to the chaplain's office." He said, "Would you mind working?" And I said, "No, I'd love to. When you get to work, you get to go outside." So I went to work at Lolly Kemp Hospital down in Independence, Louisiana. They put me as a trustee working underneath the maintenance crew, so everything they didn't want to do, I got to. But I had a blast, man. I found that thing in myself to want to go one step further again. I wanted to be the best I could be out there. And it was a blessing because I worked so hard out there. It started out, I'd go to work at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and 5 days a week, and then come back at 2:30. Well, before it was all over, I was going to work at 5:30 in the morning, not coming back to the jail till probably 10 o'clock at night. I was able to eat good food from the hospital and stuff like that and bring it back because I told the Sarge, I said, I go out there and I want to do such a good job for these people. But if I eat the meal they prepare me in that hot sun, I'm going to want to take a nap and I ain't going to get no more work done. So can I please? I said, y'all can check my food out every day. And that's what they did. I was able to bring my food in the evenings or whatever, and eat good food instead of garbage. So but it's kind of like this one thing I heard the other day. I would like to share with you. As far as blessings, sharing your blessings and this, that, and the other, and prayer and stuff. Well, prayer works, but you've got to put forth some effort. Man. If you got a shovel, you don't sit on the shovel and pray for a hole to be dug. You get there and you put the effort in. You can't expect something to happen if you don't put any effort in. I got some particulars, I guess, and some privileges because I worked hard and I really did a good job and worked hard for it. I went back recently through there, and we're going to go back through again and going to be able to film some of those folks' testimony of the time that I worked there. They'll be able to share that with everybody, and that way you don't have to listen to me talk about how great I think I am. Other people can tell you stuff right up. No, man. Well, I'm trying to do as much as I can to help people, And the most important thing, and I don't care what sector, this, that, or the other you are, just know who you're serving in life. Know what God you serve. I would personally like to see everybody serve, the Master, the Messiah, Jesus Christ. They called Yeshua is how do you say it in Hebrew? They call, the Christians here now say Jesus. That's cool. Whatever you, but the Messiah, get to know him, have a one-on-one relationship. Don't have him on Judgment Day say, "Depart from me, I never knew you." Know who you serve. And because I want everybody to, be in heaven with me. That's what's going to be heaven is all the cool people get there.
Well, good luck to them. It's too late for me.
Yeah.
There's another fan question here. They want to know if you've ever seen Vince McMahon let loose.
What do you mean? Like
outside of business, did you ever see him, like another side of him that maybe wrestlers haven't told before?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what's been told. I mean, I knew up there that they were having the scandal with the woman referee. I don't know whatever happened with that. I mean, I didn't personally ever see that side of him or anything. I don't, Vince is Vince, but I didn't see that. I know what Vince portrays himself to be is not what he is. I know he's much more deviant than what he portrays himself to be. He is.
So I guess you don't expect to be put in the Hall of Fame with your sister anytime soon, if you're saying that.
Oh no, I don't care. Look, it has never been about a title, a ring, a plaque, a certificate of completion. I got like 13 certificates of completion, honorary, cool, good stuff, high ranking stuff from 13 of the finest rehabs, but none of it means anything unless you put your foot down. So I ain't worried about titles to hang on a wall. I'm worried about you getting to know the person I am in my heart, because that's the one you need to listen to. You don't need a paper champion. You just need somebody to encourage you, inspire you. Dude, I've been paralyzed twice and still get in the ring. I've died more times. I mean, and this is from having my tonsils taken out when I was 17. I died on the table for 2 minutes. We overcome things. We get through things. I've been hit by tornadoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, everything. Been floods, this, that, and the other. When I did the thing in Vegas, I come out to Vegas. I had a seminar that year. That's why I remember it. But when I landed, at the airport in Vegas. Hell, they had to close the airport down because it brought floods to the desert. There was 3 feet of water at the Gold Coast in the parking lot.
Just to wind it down here, there's been a few fans that have asked this if you'd have any message for your sister if she happens to watch this interview. Is there anything that you would say to her?
Yeah, hey, I love you. I miss you. You take care. Wishing nothing but the best. I'm married now. Got a beautiful wife. She means the world to me. I hope we can all get together someday, and I hope it ain't before we all go to a higher place. You take care, and I know that I love you, Robin.
Is there anywhere, of course, you're on Facebook, Michael Sam Houston. Where can fans follow you if they want
The
to?
best way to do it, because I've got 5,000 fans, the best way to do it is go to Sam Houston Fan Nation and join that. And we do stuff on there. We were doing some poster giveaways recently, and we've got a lot of other things, going. Like I said, we're getting ready to complete my book. And then after that, we're going to start putting out, because I want to start. I did Duke the Dumpsters Drozie's show. It's like I guess, a rehab based show. And I enjoyed doing that. So I want to help the folks out there gain some knowledge, so they know the signs to look for in themselves or in somebody else, another family member, and to be able to stop it before it gets too bad, before they have maybe they're that one special one that you can give a little bit of encouragement to, and they can change something before it gets too bad for because I got to tell you, man, at my worst, I was at the end of my rope. Went to hang myself. Well, you didn't let that happen. So, just give it all you got. Every day for me is a blessing. You know,
Well, I think we're going to have you on again sometime because
love to. Just anytime, give just how to contact me through Will. Just give me a holler, shout, whatever. I want to thank all your listeners. Thank you for allowing me to come into your world and give you maybe a little bit of influence, or see things from a different way. I hope whatever I've said has encouraged you or inspired you. Please believe in yourself. Take a stand and be the best that you can be. You don't have to win the foot race, but just give it your all. Don't be second best in your heart. Don't give him anything less than what he deserves, and he deserves it all from you. You're being promised a better place.
very good. Well, thanks again. And the last thing I'll ask you to close off with is there's a fan on here that asked if you could do a promo. Could you do a promo on something to finish this interview off?
Oh, listen, my baby, then you're gonna hear about the tales and exploits of Sam Houston. You see, baby, I ride across the sky on the edge of a lightning bolt. I'm shedding lightning and farting thunder, baby. How's that? Is that something?
That's great. That's Dusty. That's your Dusty Rhodes impression.
Yeah. I love that one. That interview. Listen, my baby, then you gonna hear. Yeah, I love that one. That goes right up there with I wined and dined with kings and queens, spent nights and alleys eating pork and beans. You don't get much better than that. I mean, that's Chris Christopherson. I'd trade all my tomorrows for a single yesterday worthy. You know what I mean?
I think they should have given you more promo time.
Oh, they should have done a lot of things differently, but I think that I was. I think uh, I I would people warn my dad warned people off of me to start. That's why it was so important to me uh, to hear that from JJ. JJ went up to bat for me. He's like, "Hey, give the kid a break. Come on." Well, his dad said, "Well," and then Dusty gave me the break. But yeah, it was so it just heartfelt.
There's one last quick question I'll slip in because this guy tipped me $5 for me to ask you this.
Okay.
Do you have anything about Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer you could share?
No, I really didn't know him that well. I wrestled him one time. I knew he had some substance abuse issues, but everybody kind of knows what's going on with folks. Uh, you know, he beat me with a power slam or something like that on TV tape, and that was the only opportunity. Now I spent some time with his brother over in Australia. But I remember him Buzz coming in, and I only worked with him the one time. He come in for Crockett. I guess he manipulated a promoter in Ocean City, Maryland, out of a van, so he's hit the skids quick or something is what all I remember, or something like that. I don't know.
That's a basic story that most people tell about him.
Yeah, But anyway, hey man, I do appreciate coming on and everything, and just holler at Will, and whenever you want to have me back, I'm ready.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you